So we ask our question, starting off our question. Purim is called Purim, and we find very clearly in chapter 9, verse 24, the reason why it's called Purim is because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, he wished to plot and destroy the Jews, and he cast a pur. He cast a lottery to destroy the Jews. And therefore, we call Purim Purim, because he chose a lottery.
What was the lottery to? If you're a
On
Jew,
which day to murder the Jews? And it fell out on the 15th of Adar. So we start with that. Okay. Sometimes the simplest questions are the most perplexing questions, right? Why in the world you give Purim such a name? Why would you give Purim such a name? So undoubtedly, it has to have something to do with
what's
lotteries.
Hebrew for hanging your enemies? That could be the name of it
Hanging,
too.
exactly. Okay, so let's go any other places we have a lottery in the Torah. So we find Yonah. They pulled a lottery on the boat and they found that it landed on Yonah. Any other places where you find a lottery in the Torah? The land of Israel. Any ideas with regards to the land of Israel? The way the land of Israel was split up was through a lottery. I don't know where, I won't be able to find it that easily, but the land of Israel is split up according to a lottery. I mean, let's just, if you want to have something as randomized as possible, you do a lottery, right? And yet, things that you want to be as specific as possible or as godly and controlled as possible, you do not want to do a lottery, right? For example, on Yom Kippur, we find that the Kohen Gadol, he chose, there were 2 goats. One was going to be brought as an offering to Hashem, and one was going to be offered as or was going to be pushed off the cliff, La Azazel, to this negative energy angel, right? And they both were identical, and you want to make sure you get the right goat going to who? To Hashem. They used the lottery. Another time they used the lottery. So they used the lottery when they wanted to split up the land of Israel. We used the lottery where there was actually a story in the book of Joshua when they were conquering the land of Israel. So one of the responsibilities was that the Jewish nation were not allowed to take any spoils. One person took the spoils. And because of that, 11,000 people were killed in the next battle. And Joshua did not know what was the reason that they were all killed. And he did a lottery on who were the soldiers. And it fell out in the tribe of, I think it was the tribe of Binyamin. And then he went through the leaders, went through the families, and found it out to be on one individual. And a lottery. And Yoshua asked him, fess up. And he said, how can you blame me? You're doing a random choice. It has to land up on someone. It's going to land up on someone. So it happens to be me. And Yeshua says, beyond, do not, his statements were, do not bear doubt into what Hashem has guided us. And he admitted that he took from the spoils, and Yeshua killed him. He was put to death. And that was it. They did not suffer from that. I'm just like, the camera is not so great. Okay, so this concept of a lottery is an interesting concept. We tend to use it to give us random answers, and we tend to use it in very deep spiritual, in the holiest day of the year. Instead of telling us we should use we should take for Hashem, we should take the nicest goats, and for the Azazel, you should take the worst goat. We take two perfectly equal goats and we bring one to Hashem, one to the Azazel, and they're chosen through a lottery, which is an interesting concept. Okay, that's the introduction. And then the second introduction, so what's this concept of a lottery? We name Purim as the festival of lottery. Purim is not a festival of lottery. Purim is a festival of Hashem loving us, of seek hidden miracles, right? That's question number one. Question number two is not necessarily a question, but it's a very interesting concept. The concept of people that behaved in a funny way. The first is by Yitzchak. So this is actually a midrash. It tells us that Yitzchak, he was very. We don't find Yitzchak after the. We don't find Yitzchak's existence after. After the binding of Yitzchak, we don't find his personality. What happens after the binding of Yitzchak is, the story in the Torah is that Abraham sends Eliezer, his son, his servant, to go and find a wife for Yitzchak. We don't see Yitzchak playing any personality, any activity in the story. And then Eliezer goes, he has the experience with Rivka and the well, they come back. And when they come back, that's the first time we see Yitzchak's personality in the Torah after the binding of Yitzchak. And it happened, and it goes like this. If you're looking on your Chumash on page 116. Here's an easy one if you want. Sorry, it's actually 118. The 118, verse 62. And Yitzchak came from Be'er Lachai Ru'i, for he dealt in the south of the country. Turn over the page, 121, verse 63. Isaac went out to supplicate in the field towards evening. He prayed mincha. Yitzchak went to pray afternoon services, and he raised his eyes and he saw, behold, camels were coming. Rebekah raised her eyes and she saw Isaac, and she inclined, she leaned over while upon the camel. And she said to the servant, who's that man walking in the field towards us? And the servant said, he's my master. And she took the veil and covered herself. Okay. She was struck with love. She fell off the camel. She fell off the camel. So the Midrash says something very interesting. The words are, it says over here, the translation that Rabbi Archibald uses is, Rebekah raised her eyes and saw him, and she inclined. Now, the word in the Torah is vatipol me'al hagamal. She fell off the camel. Vatipol me'al hagamal. She was shocked by seeing this guy, Isaac, and she fell off the camel. So the Midrash gives us a bit of an analysis or insight to what's going on. It goes as follows. Yitzchak went out to supplicate in the field. Halach l'tail b'Gan Eden. He went to walk in Gan Eden. V'ka'asher nesa'a Rivka etzeinah, and he came back. So when Rivka saw her, he ra'ata oto yotzei miGan Eden. She initiated, her initial meeting was him coming out of Gan Eden. That's the Yalkut Shimoni. Umadua nafla me'al hagamal. Why did she fall off the camel? Ki derech hayotzin miGan Eden shiragleim lemala. Because the way that people who walk out of Gan Eden, the way they walk is that their feet are on the top and their head is on the bottom. Therefore she fell from the camel. So let's just explain a little bit what's going on. Not that we understand 100% what's going on, but Yitzchak went into Gan Eden, which means that he went, in my understanding, is Yitzchak, after being bound on the altar, he had this very high spiritual experience. And then he was in this lofty world from that spiritual experience. And now he's coming back in order to be able to have a family, to develop his family with Rivka. He's coming out of that lofty space. When he comes out of that lofty space, he's behaving in a very upside down manner, feet at the top and head at the bottom. So we want to understand.
Literal or figure?
I don't know. I mean, well, I mean, figure it. We got undoubtedly it's a spiritual concept, right?
Yeah.
In Gan Eden, so it's a figurative expression of something that he's living in an upside down manner, and we want to try and understand what does this mean, this upside down manner. Where else do we find this upside down manner, that you have a mitzvah to behave in an upside down manner? On Purim, right? Where?
I was thinking, yeah.
Exactly.
Drinking.
You tell the difference.
You can tell the difference. Right, in Purim, the mitzvah is that one should get inebriated to such a degree. We don't have that problem. Limitless.
We don't worry. We don't need to worry.
We don't need Purim for that. Exactly. One is meant to be inebriated ad de lo yada bein aru Haman the Baruch Mordechai, until one gets to such a level one doesn't understand the difference between Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai, meaning you see them as the same. Cursed be Haman, blessed be Mordechai, which means we mix up the concept and we don't see that Mordechai is the protagonist, the hero. Haman is the evil dictator. We don't see any difference. They're just one happy family. Difficult to comprehend. So we see this concept. This concept comes up. Another place where it happens is at the end of Gemara in Makot. The Gemara in Makot, you probably have seen it. It tells us that Rabbi Akiva was walking with a number of his students, and they came to the mountain of Yerushalayim, and it was absolutely desolate because the temple had recently been destroyed. Had been destroyed within the past 50 years. Rabbi Akiva was right at the bottom end of the destruction of the temple. And they tore their clothes and were sad. They came to the Temple Mount where they actually saw, where the Holy of Holies, and they saw a wolf walking out, like lapping through the place, the holiest place. They began to cry. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Akiva who would laugh. So they asked him, "Why are you laughing?" He said, "Why are you crying?" So they said, "Lo nirkash hagoyim ovdim avodas kochavim v'yoshim betach v'sha'anan v'shalva v'veis hadom ragle elokeinu haya l'sreifat eish." Should we not cry when the enemies of Hashem, the idol worshippers, that the people that worship idols, they sit in comfort and stability and in serenity, and the holy house of Hashem is empty and has been destroyed, and a field for animals of the field, and we shouldn't cry. Amar lahem, he said to them, "Lekach ani mesachek." That's why I laugh. Mesachek is almost, mesachek comes from a joke around, play. If this is for those who make Hashem angry, how much more is it for those who do His will? And the same thing is when so they said, yeah. So, anyways, so Rabbi Akiva is also acting funny behaviors, where we go and see the most destruction, the most extreme destructive actions that have happened to the Jewish nation, and Rabbi Akiva is able to get to a place where he laughs, where he sees something else beyond what we see. And that's the question. What is it that we see that is this upside down perspective that Yitzchak initially saw, that Rabbi Akiva saw, and it's almost an upside down perspective that we need to get to with regards to Purim. We need to get to that level on Purim to get to this level where it's all the same. Okay. Good. Okay. Teva. Teva. Anyone got Teva shoes? No. Apparently they're very comfortable. I don't have a pair yet. How comfortable are they, Susan? You don't have them, but you've heard
but they've been around for a long time.
a long time. Teva means nature, natural.
It's also a brand of kosher meat.
Oh, that's right. It's also a brand of meat. That's right, of kosher meat.
Oh, yeah.
It's also a pharmaceutical company. Teva, that's right. Teva? Oh my gosh, they're like the biggest generic company in the world. Okay, Teva. What is Teva? Teva is what the simple translation of Teva is nature. Nature. What we need to this level in Purim that we're going to strive towards, that we want to strive towards, is this level where we see nature in a different perspective. Okay. I'll give you two more examples of random behavior. Okay, two more examples of random behavior. Ruth was, she had just came to the land of Israel. Everyone's familiar with the story of Ruth, right? Ruth and Naomi. They just come to the land of Israel. Ruth she had converted to Judaism. She comes with her mother-in-law. They were absolutely poverty. They had nothing. And Ruth goes to collect what is called they're in the fields. There's halachas that when you harvest your crop, so they're tied in a rope and then chop it. Okay, leket, shikha, and peh. So leket is when you gather your crop. So they make a bundle, and then they'd cut it. If there were extra pieces that fell that were not collected in that bundle, in that string, that's called leket. Leket, and the halacha is, the Jewish law is that you have to leave it for the poor. You're only allowed to take that which was in your bundle. You're not allowed to take that which fell. Leket. Then you had your wagon. So you had workers that are gathering the bundles and chopping them, and then the wagon goes around and collects all the bundles. Torah says if you collect all your bundles and you come back into your warehouse and you look out in your field and you say, oh, I left one down there and I left the one down there, that's called shikha. That's something that has been forgotten. You're not allowed to take it. You have to leave it for the poor. Okay, and then peh is the corner of the field, that one has to leave a corner of a field. There's no dimension, certain minimal amount. One needs to leave a minimal amount for the poor. If you were very generous, you'd leave a lot. If you weren't, you'd leave little. So Ruth, she goes out to collect the leket, shikha, and peh. She goes out to the field. And it says, Vayikar, and it happened to be, mikre is like this absolute random thing. It happened to be, it was a random experience that happened to be that the field that she went to was Boaz.
What?
Boaz, who happened to be, who would soon to be her future husband, who is going to be the great grandfather of King David. It was absolutely random. Now, is that absolutely random? or was there Hashem absolutely guiding that experiment? There's one other one right over here. We see Eliezer, he asks something so interesting. If you still have your Chumash on page 112, just a little bit before that, actually. Page 110, 110, 111. Okay. Now, if you're able to look at the Hebrew on verse 12, it says, verse 12, oh, look in English. And he said, Hashem, God, my master, Abraham, may you so arrange it for me this day that you do kindness with my master Abraham. Behold, I'm standing at the spring. The daughters are coming out. Let it be the maiden to whom I shall say, please tip over your jug. May I drink? And he replies, drink it. I will even give water to your camels. Her will you have designated for your servant for Isaac. So she says, so Eliezer is saying, Hashem, please may you arrange it in such a way that the girl that comes out will be the right one for Yitzchak. Right now, the Hebrew word that he uses is hakre na lefanai. Please randomly create this for me, that the person who walks out will be the correct girl for Isaac, which is the exact opposite of how one should daven. You don't pray for random, Hashem, randomly bring my numbers to of the Powerball lottery, right? You ask specifically, Hashem, please give me this number and this number and this, right? Here he's asking for just a random experience, which is so counterintuitive to what one would expect when someone is asking for something that is so important. Okay, and then we're coming back to this concept of teva, this concept of nature, natural. Natural has two functionalities. Nature can be this thing which we have within our existence, and it is something that we live with. There are natural rules, there are natural behaviors of our society, not of our society, of our world, how the world functions. It's just Mother Nature. There's another perspective that nature is this thing that hides the hand of Hashem. That's what the goal is. Nature is this tool with which Hashem enables himself to completely hide within this world. Let's start with a simple challenge. Do we believe that we are the children of Hashem? I have to start with that. We believe that we are the children of Hashem. Banim atem la Hashem Elokechem. God says, you are my child. It's a verse in the Torah. Banim atem, you are Hashem's children. Hashem created this world for us. Okay? And he's given us everything that we need. Therefore, when I take a breath in of fresh air, am I randomly taking breath in? I'm randomly taking any fresh air in? Or was this cubic meter of air that I'm breathing in order for it to oxygenate my blood and enable me life? Is that just there's massive amounts of air out there and I'm just taking as part of that? Or is this something that is very specific for me, that Hashem prepared for me? Now, Hashem doesn't want to show us how it would be very scary to live in a world where Every time we needed to breathe, Hashem would give us a bubble. Here you go. Here you go. That would be a very scary existence because it would carry so much weight with regards to Hashem's giving me air all the time, every time. It would be very difficult to have free choice. So what Hashem does is he hides all the air that we need in a massive existence, in a massive layer of oxygen that this world has. And in truth, Hashem doesn't need oxygen in the whole world. He just needs oxygen for us and the animals and the tree life. But he wants to hide it himself in this in this world, so he calls this thing called Mother Nature. In truth, who created Mother Nature? Hashem created Mother Nature. How did he create Mother Nature? He created it in such a way that he's completely hidden. So this is such a beautiful tool. You know, I have to share with you guys, a number of years ago, I haven't shared this with anyone, even Eve, but so we used to live in Portland.
I want to stop the recording.
Maybe I should stop the recording, right? Nah, it's not such a.
Eve doesn't listen to it. Anyhow.
Eve doesn't listen to it anyhow. She gets lost halfway. After I speak for about 10 minutes, she's gone. So in I would travel to Seattle every so often. We live in Portland. Seattle was a 3.5 hour drive, and the best place for kosher Indian food. There's this kosher Indian restaurant over there. Oh my gosh, to die for, like the best. I would. There have been times where I flew into Seattle and I got into an Uber to go down and pick up, and then go back on. That's I have a soft spot for Indian food. Anyways, one time I'm there picking up a massive order because I drive up to Seattle and then we take like a whole bunch prepared. And they have a restaurant. Best part is Indian food. All you can eat for lunch, right? All you can eat. I think it was $15. All you can eat. Oh my gosh. Anyways, there was a girl there that walked in. She was in her mid-20s, clearly single. And I didn't notice her until I noticed her sitting down. And I noticed her, she had a plate of food, and then she just sat with this hot plate of food. And she just sat and she was meditating over the food. She was meditating over the food. Then she would touch her belly and touch the table, touch her belly, touch the table, touch her belly, touch the table for about 15 minutes. She didn't touch the food. And then she got to a place and then she sat and she ate like a normal person, slowly, gently.
She complained to the owner that the food was cracky.
You know what they do? So in meditation practices, what they do is before they eat, they go through a list of gratitude, not only for the food and for whoever prepared it, but they'll go through a whole list of the entire chain of where this food started, right down to my plate. And it's a beautiful experience when we're to sit and just think about where my food came from, who originated, who worked for it, what process it went through, and think about that, and it's available for me, and it's here for me, it's here in front of me, for me to enjoy, and where it's going to go in my body, what it's going to do in my body. It's a completely different way of eating. It's a completely different way of experiencing food, right? This way of eating, hold on a second, Adrian. This way of eating brings a person into a place of gratitude. Brings a person into a beautiful place of gratitude. Adrian.
Isn't that what our blessings that we say over food are supposed to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this definitely takes it to a much, much deeper level of like developing that sense of gratitude to a much deeper level, right? But blessings are the ABC. My Rabbi used to shout. He's like, ever heard, does anyone know what Balanai means? Balanai? It's like, but people, he's like, you're speaking to Hashem. You're saying thank you. Baruch atah Hashem Balanai. We're in a rush, right, Adrian? You know, if we are Hashem's children and he created the world and he cares and he's involved in our life, then everything that we have is for us. And the rest that is around, the abundance that is around, is Hashem just hiding that personal connection that he's giving to us. I have a cucumber in my pocket. I was thinking about it. Jeffrey is like, why in the world has he got a cucumber in his pocket? I was hungry. I needed to grab something out of the fridge. There's my cucumber. My little English cucumber, right? How many were there when I walked into Wall of Jewel or wherever I got it from? I think this one was from Trader Joe's. How many of them? Hundreds, right? But with the correct perspective, I can see that Hashem wanted me to have nutrition today. And he knew that I was going to have a long day and I was going to work out and I'm going to be hungry. And he look at this delicious, fresh, nutritious vegetable that he brought for me personally, because he loves me. Because he loves me. That is seeing the Hashem behind the nature. Okay. Purim, the book of Purim is called Megillah. The Megillah. What does Megillah mean? Megillah comes from the word megaleh, legalot. Anyone know what that word means? Legalot, megaleh. Megaleh means to reveal. Reveal. What the Megillah actually does is it, one of the mitzvahs in reading of the Megillah is that when one reads the Megillah, the Megillah is actually rolled up, right? And before you read the Megillah, you unroll the entire thing. One's meant to unroll the entire thing. We fold it back and forth, back and forth.
Weird.
It's very weird watching it, right? Why do we unroll the entire thing? Because the goal is to show that it's all one story. Here's the beginning of the story and here's the end of the story. And we're going to work through the entire thing. Why? Because what the Megillah does is it takes a whole collection of random facts, puts them together into a story, which if you look at the story from the perspective of the Megillah, wow, you see Hashem. You see Hashem. Let's give an example. Example that is given is the Megillah starts off, Vayhi b'mei Achashverosh, was in the time of Achashverosh. Hu Achashverosh hamolech mehodevad Kush. He was Achashverosh who ruled from India to the province of Kush. 127 provinces. In those days, when King Achashverosh sat on his royal throne, he decided to make a royal party, which was in Shushan. He decided to make a royal party. So Vilna Gaon asks number of brilliant questions. Number one, who cares that the king was sitting on his throne? Number two, who cares where the capital was? Number three, why do you have to tell me all this information? Number four, Achashverosh, he inherited his monarchy from who? Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babel. Achashverosh merited the monarchy through marrying, guess who? Vashti, the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar. Now, where was Nebuchadnezzar the king of? He was pretty much the king of most of the world, but where was his capital?
Babylon.
That's right. He was the king of Babylon. Where is Shushan versus Babylon? Shushan is in Persia. Babylon is in Babylon. I don't remember what the capital of Babylon was. So the Vilna Gaon asks, what's Achashverosh doing in Shushan if the capital of all of the capital of the world, of the Babylonian Empire, which he inherited and which he's controlling the world by, is in Babylon? What's he doing in Persia?
That's where he moved his throne, and it was so big, he couldn't move it to Babylon, so he had to stay in Shushan.
Exactly. They built a throne for Achashverosh. Why did he build a throne? What was the basis for his throne? So there was a great throne that Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, sat on. And when Achashverosh controlled the world, he took over that control of the throne, which was ultimately at the time was controlled by Egypt. In Egypt had controlled the throne. And there was a pharaoh, who was called Paro Neche. He couldn't walk straight because he had inherited, or he had conquered Jerusalem, and he took the throne of King Solomon, and he chose to sit on the throne. And when he sat on the throne kicked him off, and he hurt himself. And from that day onwards, he could never walk straight. It's called Paro Neche. So Achashverosh, he liked the throne, and he wanted the throne like that, sort of like the ultimate. So he was going to build his own throne. Where are you going to build your own throne? Where the most talented craftsmen are. Where the most talented craftsmen in Persia, not in Babel. So they built a massive throne in Persia. Massive throne. And then they couldn't move them. It couldn't move the throne across because it was too heavy to move from Persia to Babel. So what did Achashverosh do? He went and established his headquarters in Shushan. Why?
Same city as Esther and Mordecai.
There was a tzaddik who lived in Shushan, Mordecai. Mordecai was thrown out of Yerushalayim. He went out of Yerushalayim to exile, and he was in Shushan. So from that perspective, it's all of a sudden, wow, Hashem moved the entire monarchy, or the empire, the headquarters, everything, to this place called Shushan, because there's a tzaddik right over there. It's changing the perspective from a perspective of like, that just happened to be, that's where it was. Or the other perspective is, that's where Mordechai is. There's going to be a Haman. Before Haman comes, we're going to do maktim refuah lemaka. We're going to bring the medicine before the disease. And Hashem prepares what is needed. So he prepares Mordechai and Esther in Shushan. He has them already there, and he prepares that everything that's going to happen in Shushan. Megillah is from a lashon of Megillah. Megillah is something that it reveals. It shows us this common thread that when you put all of these specific details together, they all come together and say, wow, there's the miracle. There's the hidden miracle, right? How many times is Hashem's name mentioned in the Megillah, by the way? 0. 0 times. Why is it written 0 times in the Megillah? Why? Because when we talk about what the Megillah is doing, is it's revealing Hashem in a hidden way. Megillah is revealing Hashem in a hidden way. It's revealing Hashem in the nature. Hashem, the expression of Hashem's name, is Hashem controlling over nature. And therefore, we don't put Hashem's name in because that's the opposite of what the Megillah is trying to achieve. The Megillah is trying to achieve that hidden expression of Hashem throughout the Megillah. Hi, Rhonda. Okay. This is where we go to with regards Mazel tov, guys. So exciting.
Thank
Very
you. Very excited.
Have you met her yet?
No, we're not allowed to go to the hospital.
Okay.
So they'll be coming home tomorrow. We'll,
Back soon, right? Yeah. They'll be home soon.
they'll be home tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How big is the baby? How big?
7:13.
Okay.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad. 13. Beautiful. Mazel tov. You should have a lot of nachas.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
do.
Okay, let's getting back to this concept of recognizing that Hashem is in nature. This is a concept that very high people, very great people recognize. There is more connection between Hashem in the challenge than in the revealed. Okay, more connection, ability of connecting to Hashem in the challenge than in the revealed. Let's start with who do we start with? Start with Yitzchak or Rabbi Akiva. Yitzchak. Let's start with Yitzchak. Yitzchak comes out of the Garden of Eden, and his feet are up, and his head is down. What does this mean that his feet are up and his head is down? He's walking the exact opposite of the way a human being walks, right? We're different from animals in that animals, they are parallel, their bodies are parallel to the ground, right? And the heads are usually face down, whatever, to a big degree. Human beings, we are standing upwards, right? What that usually means, what it means from a spiritual perspective, is that the brain, the head, which is a focus of spirituality, is yearning upwards towards, we'll call it the heavens, towards the place where the spiritual is sourced in. We're yearning for that. We're yearning for a place where we're not going to have major challenges. We're yearning for a place where the expression of Hashem is clear and open. Yitzchak, he comes out of Gan Eden, he comes into this world. What he's doing is living an upside down way of life. What he's saying is, you think that the ultimate connection is over there, is in the higher worlds, you got it wrong. The ultimate connection of Hashem is here in the natural world. All one needs to do is change one's perspective. If one just adjusts a little bit, one's able to see how everything we see from it, everything we experience in this world is an opportunity of connecting to Hashem. There's a most phenomenal midrash that talks about when Moshe was passing away. When Moshe was passing away, there's a conversation that Hashem had between Hashem and Moshe's neshama. And Hashem said, my daughter, come back to me. I'll bring you to the source. I'll bring you back to my source. And the neshama didn't want it. She said, Moshe is a pure person. There's nothing that you can offer me that is more precious than being within the physical body of Moshe. And Hashem says, come up to me and I'll place you, and you'll have a place in the highest levels next to the Srafim, the Ufanim. And the neshama says, I'm not interested. You come and pull me out, that's one thing. I'm not leaving the body of Moshe. And it says what happened was HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought the Shekhinah down and embraced Moshe, and the neshama was sucked into that spiritual magnet of the Shekhinah of Hashem. What is being revealed over here is that the neshama knew where it was going to. It knew where it was going to the most lofty place in the world, the most highest spiritual person that existed was Moshe. So the neshama, when it's finished its job over here, it's going to there. And yet the neshama says, this is where I want to be. Because the neshama realized that there is an ability of what we call devekus, attachment to the spiritual world in this physical world that is so powerful you cannot achieve it in that world. Because over there you're stagnant. Over here it is active. The spiritual experience that we're able to have over here is so active and so powerful you can't experience it in that place that we go to after we die. Yitzchak realized that. He lived his life from that perspective. Such an interesting way of life. You think Yitzchak's whole way of life, by the way, I'm kind of digressing, I know, should be stopping, but Yitzchak's whole way of life was completely weird. Rivka was the one, she had 2 children inside her stomach. She didn't know what was going on with her pregnancy. Why don't you go ask her husband? She doesn't go ask her husband, she goes and asks Shem, she goes and asks the prophets, Shem and Aver. Why don't you go ask her husband? Simple question, right? Well, why didn't she ask her husband? She did ask her husband. You know what he said? This is it. This is the Hashem. Hashem wants it to be like that. Most frustrating people. You want to punch in the head. Yitzchak, he plans. He's lived his whole life. His kids are older. He's ready to give over the blessings that he received from Avram. He's going to give it to his child, who he chose. Who's the one that he chose? Esau. That's what he chose. Yaakov comes and steals it. Esau comes and finds out. It's all revealed. What's Yitzchak's words? Yitzchak's words are like this. Mihuzeh haba hatzad side. Who's the one that hunted and come around and did this wild behavior that came and got it, and that I blessed him? Gam baruch yeh. Let him be blessed. Taking ourselves out of the picture. I'd be mad. So you kidding? Yitzchak didn't even know it was Yaakov. Yitzchak says, someone else came and take the bracha. That's what Hashem wants. That's okay. He was living a life where Hashem was around him all the time. Everything he experienced was Hashem's here. Hashem's right here with me. And therefore, well, I thought I wanted to give it to this person. Well, it went to this person. Well, that is clearly what Hashem wanted. Yitzchak, he's the one that digs the wells. He digs a well, digs a well, digs a well. Every time he digs a well, they block it up. Dig a well, block it up. He digs a well, blocks it up. Doesn't seem to get at all frustrated by the Plishtim. Eventually, he finds a well that they don't block up. He calls it Mea Sharim. No frustration. You invest all your time, all your effort. Clearly, Hashem didn't want me to invest over here. Hashem didn't want me to invest over here. Hashem didn't want me to invest over here. Yitzchak was a person that constantly recognized that the struggle is the place of the attachment. The struggle is where you're attached to Hashem. Purim is that experience, and that's the opportunity. We can't. It's very difficult to live a life like that. Okay, we can. That's where Rabbi Akiva he saw destruction. Rabbi Akiva was like, destruction was foreseen. There's going to be a revelation. Rabbi Akiva lived a life where he always was in touch with Hashem. He was living with that struggle, and that struggle is okay. Purim is so therefore we don't have, it's very difficult, in my opinion, very difficult to live this way of life during our day-to-day experiences. It's a very difficult way of life. It takes a tremendous amount of work. But there are many people that do get to a place where it's okay. They're not stupid, they're not irresponsible, but they're not frustrated. They're in a place of serenity on a constant basis. Purim al Shem HaPur. Purim is called Purim al Shem HaPur because of the lottery. A lottery is that one place which we'll call absolute randomness, which is the absolute hand of Hashem in Mother Nature. So therefore, we'll start with. They randomly chose, let's go with Yonah. They randomly chose a person and it fell out to be on Yonah. What's it got to do with anything? What's it got to do with anything? Like, we randomly choose whose responsibility it is that we're going down, and it happens to be Yonah. Yonah can answer, what do you mean? Why are you blaming me? You took a lottery. It's got nothing. You didn't evaluate anyone's mitzvahs, anyone's evaluation. You just did a random lottery and you fell out on me. At that time, they realized this is a clear guidance of Hashem. This is the most simplest way of being able to get a clarification of where it's guiding to. Yonah, Yoshua, settling of the land of Israel. Who can carry such a weight of settling, of dividing up the land of Israel? Who can carry that weight? Hashem can carry that weight. How do we do it? We split it up by a goat. It actually tells us to do that in the Chumash. Who can carry the weight of which goat you give to the Azazel, which one gives to Hashem? Two identical goats. A lottery can do that because what the lottery is doing is Hashem's guiding us with that. So therefore, when Haman goes and chooses the ultimate day to completely annihilate the Jews, it doesn't go and choose the day that is most the ideal day from a weather perspective, the ideal day where people are most healthy, people are most frustrated. He goes and uses the one tool that Hashem uses to express himself in this world called Mother Nature. He goes and uses that to choose the day on which to annihilate the Jews. Hashem says, I'm running the world. I'm running the world in a very hidden way. And therefore, Purim is this expression called finding Hashem in the hidden. That's really what it is. It's experiencing Hashem in the hidden, not just finding it. It's experiencing it. It's finding the gratitude towards Hashem in the hidden. So there are 4 mitzvahs in Purim. There's the reading of the Megillah twice, once at night and once during the day. The second mitzvah is matanot le'evyonim, giving gifts to the poor. Mishlach manot, giving a gift to a friend. Food to a friend. And drinking and the soda. Thank you. and eating the meal and getting drunk. The soda, it's really eating a meal. It's really where it's at. Eating the meal, getting to level. So what the concept over here that I understand is that when one feels a tremendous emotion, what's really important is to bring it into a practical way, to bring it practically. So one feels a tremendous love towards one's spouse or one's child. it's important to take that emotion and to try and translate it into something practical. On Purim, we get to such a level where we understand Hashem, you're running my life. You're so involved in my life. I'm so grateful for everything that you've given me. I'm going to take care of yours. It's taking that emotion and giving it and translating it. So the first thing, I'm taking care of yours by charity. That's very important. Number two, giving gifts to one to another. Gifts one to another, what we're doing is we're building relationships. Hashem, we are your children. We're building those relationships. The Megillah, we'll read the Megillah in order to see that hand of Hashem throughout the experience. And in Su'udah, the meal is ultimately a celebration. And the goal is this idea of getting drunk. Getting drunk, until one gets to a place where one does not know the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. What one gets to a place, this is such a beautiful concept. One gets to a place where one recognizes that the righteous hero in my experience, in my life, that Mordechai is a mechitza, he's a separation between my personal connection between me and Hashem. I want to move Mordechai out the way so that I can have pure, unadulterated, unaffected relationship between me and Hashem. And we get to such a level where we realize, Hashem, you're so controlling everything that even when I see a horrible behavior dictator, Putin, running around, threatening the whole, completely destabilizing the balance of this world, it's Hashem. It's absolutely Hashem. He's just a puppet, just an absolute puppet in guiding the world. That our goal. Now we can't see that on a regular basis. It's very hard to get to such a level on a regular basis. On Purim, we get to such a level of that emotional connection, that attachment, the dveikus. We get to such a high level where we see it so clear. Putin is just a Putin. Mordechai is just a Mordechai. Hashem is running everything. Purim. Purim is to reveal. Purim is a lottery. It's to reveal that Hashem is here. It's that attachment, to reveal that attachment between us and Hashem, that He's here with us. We experience and we see Him. We find that gratitude. Exercises. I mean, like, I've done that a couple of times. Exercise with food. Takes it to another level. Takes it to another level. For me, this cucumber, Hashem wanted me to have this cucumber. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. I'm willing to share. It will be revealed. It will be revealed. Depends who's hungry.
Rabbi Began would call that a holy cucumber.
A holy cucumber.
Because of what you've been telling us is all so important, and the holiness of becoming close to God. That cucumber is involved,
right,
with what you're doing, and it's becoming a holy cucumber.
Yeah, my Rabbi used to say, the way he put it, he said, person needs milk for his house. So he goes to the makolet, right? You go to the store, he's in Israel, right? So in the store in Israel, they have these massive tubs, refrigeration tubs, and inside of it are the bags of milk, right? You guys familiar with the bags of milk in Israel? No? In Israel, they serve milk in bags. Anyway, or whatever, it doesn't matter. But I mean, like, he needs milk. So he goes to the store and there's 100 bottles of milk, 100 bottles of milk, right? And he takes one and he takes it home.
$99.
99 bottles of milk left in the wall, exactly, right? And he says, we don't process it, but he said, like, that bottle, Hashem put it there for you because he loves you and he cares for you and he wants it to be cold and he wants it to be fresh and he creates a store all for you. And in order to hide his love, he puts 199 other bottles over there. And we just need to get to that place. Wow, thank you.
Holy cow.
Holy cow, exactly. Anyways, it's work that we get to do. We don't get to do it often, but Purim's that time where we like, and also Purim is a time where there's a lot of chaos going on. Chaos is a representative, the way our sages tell us, is my rabbis, my teachers tell us, chaos in Judaism is a time of spiritual growth. Chaos, if you want to know the holiest days that exist, look for the days that there's the most chaos going on, because those are the days where I'm getting emotional, but I mean, like, even I have had massive things happen to us because of Purim, on Purim and because of Purim. I mean, like, it's difficult to express, but I mean, like, it's this Purim is a time when it just needs to find time. Just take a bit of time and daven and say thank you, Hashem, for all that you have given me. It's a key to opening up that emotional attachment that we can have between us and Hashem. It's such a powerful key of the holiest of the day. We say Yom Purim, Yom Kippurim. Yom Kippur is Yom Kippurim. It's a day as holy like Purim, except that the two opposites. One, you prep yourself, you don't talk to anyone, you just sit and you fast and you pray and you sit and you fast. Nothing, don't eat. That's the day that is like Purim, because Purim is a much greater day. So much more potential able to come through our work that we do on Purim. One just needs to be ready for it. And there's undoubtedly in my house, every single year, the opportunity presents itself. I get frustrated. And it's like ready to throw it all the way, throw it all out. Nah. Anyways, I thank you all for listening. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
My pleasure. Mazel tov.
Thank you. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Keep well.
You too.
Bye.
Good to see everyone. Be well.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Shabbat shalom, guys.